absolutely love them. They've cost me, I don't know, a lot of money. But anyway, I used to throw things away when they were moth damaged because, well, you know, what can you do with a moth hole? Now, when I'm looking at things that are made from vintage materials they're never going to see again, I think, well, you've got to try and hang on to some of this stuff. No matter how badly it's damaged, keep it, because you can use the material for something else. A lot of the time you can repair it. You don't despair if you've got a moth hole. There's lots of different ways of doing it. You can darn it, but darns tend to be a little bit lumpy. This is a little trick I quite often do with things like dinner jacket trousers. Now, this is a perfectly wearable, it's quite a good size. These are 32 waist, 32 leg, good size for a modern chap. But I sold these, and we found out, because I hadn't noticed, that it's got a hole there. Now, you can see the hole quite plainly there. You see it a lot more clearly. Now, the trouble is, when you look at a hole like that, it's quite visible because it looks blacker than the thing. So it really stands out. And just to make it stand out a little bit more, let's just stuff that in there. Now you can see that's quite a big hole there, and it'll put a lot of people off wearing them like that. So what we're going to do is a little trick. This is fusing tape. It's frowned upon by tailors, but used extensively by them. And I use it a lot too. Now, what we're going to do is steal a little bit of the same cloth from somewhere else. Now, the turn up on this trouser is very shallow, so I'm not going to steal any from here, but there's always somewhere else when you can pinch a little bit of material. Next place to look is, of course, this pretty generous V in the back. Now, I'm going to cut a tiny little bit out of here. Doesn't need much. All that's needed, just about a little bit bigger than the hole. I'll cut that little bit of overlocking off now. That's a tiny little piece. Now, next thing to do, see that's big enough to cover that hole, of course, and it's the same material. Then we take our fusing tape and put that over it. Like that. Now you can make the tape just a little bit bigger than the actual little patch you're using, if you like. It won't do any harm. Fusing tape tends to just sort of shrivel and disappear if you've got a little bit of a border on it. So that little bit of extra that you see just there, that's fine. Now we're going to reverse these trousers. Take that out, put it back in when we've turn this inside out. Make sure we've got the right leg. Now where's our hole? Here we go. It's there. Now we want to make sure we can see it again. So where's our bit of? I find the best stuff is kitchen towel. It seems to do this job quite well because the little bit of adhesive that would normally go straight down to the other side of the trousers tends to just disappear and stick to the kitchen towel quite well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a tiny little hole in this. You don't always have to do that. If that was a smaller hole, I wouldn't even bother to do this. I'm going to cut just a tiny little hole in there, like that. So see that hole is smaller than the actual moth hole. Now put that over like that. Now here's our patch. Now be careful that you've got these. Actually, there is a right way up for this cloth, but I'm not going to bother too much with this. It's paraffia. Now put that over like that. Now I've got a really nice fancy iron here, but you know, an ordinary domestic steam iron's just as good. Let's watch this. Put it on, don't move it about. Get a bit of steam there. Want that really hot now. Press it on that. Once it's bonded, you can then press it on. And you see the little tracers that were like overlapping there, they've disappeared now. Get the steam out of the way, steaming my glasses up. Now let's see if we've been successful. Now remember, it was quite unsightly. That was a quite visible hole. You'd see your skin or your socks or something through that. Now let's see if it's noticeable now. That's it. A lot of repairs, they don't have to be invisible repairs as long as they're unnoticeable repairs. Now that's where it is. Now I'm just going to give it a quick press again using this paper, which will it's all in the pressing. Now let's see what we've got. It's almost invisible. It's certainly perfectly wearable now. Now, I'm in love with Harris Tweed. My first suit was a Harris Tweed suit. When I was 17, I had a Harris Tweed suit tailored, and I was telling my friends, I'm getting a suit. It's Harris Tweed. That was like saying I'm getting a car. It's a Mercedes. Harris Tweed in those days was this stuff. Really dense, incredibly hard-wearing stuff. The market is different now, and so modern Harris Tweed is made for the fashion business, and it's lovely stuff, but it's not... we don't make plus fours out of it anymore, sadly. But anyway, tragically, lots of old coats like this that got a little bit moth damaged or people grew out of would get thrown away. But these coats, especially this colour and the love of the colour, are so precious now. You have to hang on to them, and it's worth doing a little bit of repairs. Now this has had some pretty bad moth damage here and there in some pretty visible places. But the great thing about this is it's a plain colour, so it's very, very easy to darn a plain colour with a not an invisible repair, but an unnoticeable repair. Now I'm going to have a go at all these little holes here. They're all over the place, but particularly this one right on the lapel, with the canvassing showing through on the underneath. This has got the lovely old Harris Tweed label. It's Burton tailored. This is probably made late 1950s. We don't know. Yeah, dates are always a bit confusing on Harris Tweed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal some of the same cloth from the inside, from a seam where we've got some to spare. So we start by unpicking this bottom bit. Now, if you've got something with a pattern, you'll want some vertical seams and some horizontal seams. So you can take it from the bottom hem and from the centre seams. So you only have to make a little hole about as big as your fist, basically. And sometimes this unpicker just sails through. Got a little bit careful because if you get a bit too savage, you can tear the lining. Right. So now. Oh, it's stitched in two places. Oh, great. Here we go. Now, there's a shortcut to this, which I don't advise people to do unless you have. Once you've made a little bit of opening, you can take a shortcut and just slide the scissors in there and be a little bit careful. Just open it up and slide the scissors along, just getting the cutting edge of the scissors. We'll unpick it in the same way like that. Sometimes you can go quite quickly, depends on the kind of thread used. But anyway, look, here we are. We've got inside it, and so we can start robbing a bit of the... now they've put the end of this, they've sealed it up a little bit. So I'm going to open a little bit more and attack a seam in a different place. Yeah, well done, David. I've torn it, but here we go. Let's go to this side bit here. And we just need to catch one nice long thread from one of these seams. Okay, here's the edge of the seam. If they've cut it on the grain line, we should be able to get a nice long piece of cloth out of it. And we're going to take some of it, we're going to nick some of it. I've just claimed a couple of these threads here. They don't need to be much longer than this if you're dealing with a really small hole. I'm going to thread these onto the darning needle and then sneakily start weaving them into that. Probably do that a dozen times and that hole will be near invisible. Tiny surface with the to give it a good purchase. So I'm sort of pushing it through the cloth, and then of course it's quite free when it gets to the hole, and then sort of try to snake it in between the threads that are there. Let it surface just one place and then down again. Yeah. So there. Now all we have to do now is, this will grip quite well in there, and I've put one in right in the centre. When that tail disappears like that completely, you now have one piece in the middle, and so we just snip that off like that. Now it doesn't take long to completely fill that little gap with these vertical ones, and then just start putting a few horizontal ones in, and you've got a pretty good repair there, and you can proudly step out in a house to your jacket. This lovely old overcoat is a little bit bigger than my size, but this raglan sleeve style is really comfortable and can actually be worn a little bit bigger. So it's just tragic that for the sake of a few little holes we lose some of these fabulous garments. This is a super old coat. I'm just wearing it like a big sort of cape. It's fabulous. Oh great, and it's got the original button in the pocket. Yeah, mess around with that later. Hello everybody, back again. I've just had a cup of tea and going to get started doing a bit of work. A lot of people, because I posted about it before, I'm asked time and time again, what do you do about moths in a place like this? Well, moths are a bit of a problem, and I was told a very long time in Savile Row that just keep things moving around. Because moth eggs are like chicken's eggs, they have to hatch out, they've got to be the same temperature. Just look at your stuff and keep it moving around, and bear in mind little things like if you've got a wardrobe and you've got a dozen navy blue overcoats and one camel one, the moths will eat the camel one alive because they like things that are the same colour. So watch out for your camel cashmere jumpers. But now, just quickly before I get started, I want to show somebody how to repair a moth damaged jacket here. This suit that I'm wearing, just a shout out to McGee, Irish family company. I think they're still a privately family owned company. It's an Irish thorn-proof tweed, and it's indestructible. I took this out of the top floor of W.W. Gibson when I worked in Scarborough in the 1960s. It's that typical 1960s cut that was around, sort of popular just before the Beatles came out and changed everything. I've been wearing this suit all my life, and it's like brand new. I mean, this is workwear. It's got the really old McGee label in. This label's probably from like the 1950s, they had that label. And this stuff, we're not going to see material like this again, really. Nobody's going to make it because Ralph Lauren don't have any use for durable fabrics. They want you to buy a new suit every 6 months. Anyway, talking about really great old companies, McGee, shout out to McGee. There was a fabulous company that made very boring suits for gentlemen that went to the golf club. They didn't do fashionable suits, they didn't do Beatles suits, they didn't do Teddy Boy suits, they just made super quality, regular, classic cut suits. The name of the company was Chester Barry. Now they also made for Savile Row, they made for Hawks & Co, and they made for lots of other companies. Hawks & Co, of course, were #1 Savile Row. They amalgamated with Geeves and became Geeves and Hawks, and now it's just known as Geeves. But an awful lot of kit in Savile Row is made by Chester Barry. Now the difference between Chester Barry and a lot of other jackets that were made, even at this time, is that Chester Barry jackets were actually canvassed as opposed to fused. Now very few companies actually did that. Most jackets will be fused, and there's nothing wrong with fusing. Fusing's been around for 100 years. Nothing wrong with it at all if it's done properly. People don't always do it properly. You see on the side here, this is actually hand canvassing, but in a factory. I spent an awful lot of my early years doing canvassing. You see, this is a canvassing as opposed to gluing. Now, I sold this jacket. I actually sold this jacket online, and then when I went to pack it up, I found that it had been damaged in quite a few places by moths. Now, maybe 15 years ago, you would have thrown it away, but this is a Chester Barry Savile Row jacket, and it's really super material. So I'm going to restore it. Now, just to show you how bad the moth damage is, there's an actual hole just here. That's about a square centimetre. You can see right through the canvassing there. Some moths had a really feast on that. Then you've got various places where there's a sort of tear just here. The threads are still sort of hanging around loose there. I think on the sleeve. So this is quite badly damaged. There's another tear somewhere. Let's just find it. This may be on the other sleeve. Oh yeah, here. Now that's pretty bad. I can get my finger in there. But this is quite recoverable. Now it's much easier to do. Oh, and another one in the back. There's another hole in the back there. So this has been quite badly damaged by moths. But now the handy thing about loose weave tweeds like this are quite easy to do either a darn or a repair because they're very forgiving. If it was a fine mohair suit, you might take a different view on it. But there's lots of different ways to tackle it, and the first one I'm going to do is this one in the front, just here, this actual hole. Now, I think one of the things you might do first is to actually make sure that the hole is, the pattern is straight, and keep the hole tidy. So it's very easy for the hole to get stretched when you're working on it. So what we might do is with a cotton, perhaps an invisible cotton, just put some threads backwards and forwards like that to tighten it up and keep it in position. Now you could do a darn by taking some of these threads from the inside, there's plenty available from the seams, and just weaving it in again. But I think I'm going to do it with a little patch. So I need my little pinking shears and my little snippers, so 1 second. Okay, now there is always somewhere inside a jacket like this to steal a few threads to darn with. I love these two colour threads because they're really good camouflage and go anywhere. Yeah, I'm going to take this one out. Just get it out of the way. Nice long one there. Yeah. You can't go and buy one of these. This is really useful stuff to have. With two colours, it's really useful for repairs. Now. I'll first check the pattern and I'll see which bit we need. I'm going to cut a little bit off the hem just here, having brushed away all the fluff that's gathered there over the years. So we want to line it up with that pattern, so I'm going to cut a little square here. Sometimes this hem here is quite shallow, so you might look somewhere else. If it's a suit, you might look at the waistband of the trousers, but when you're cutting something small like this, it's best to use your little snips because scissors would be too big. So I'm going to cut a nice little square there. Yep. And I'm going to chop it off there where the stitching was the hem. Right. So this is just like a little piece of a jigsaw puzzle. It goes that way around. Now, You can use the same technique if you're doing something with black barathea. You can just put the thing in by pressing it into place. Yeah, now there's the pattern. You see, if we lay that on top, you can see that pattern matches up beautifully. So I'm going to use this little Allen key here or something similar. Yeah, in fact, something similar, this screwdriver. Press that into there and just pull it up slightly. Now we have the piece on the inside. Now, you might want to line it up a little bit better. So let's just use anything to sort of make sure we've got it nicely lined up. I think that's a reasonable pattern match. Now, we're going to use a little bit of fusing tape. And because the hole's quite big, I'm going to cut a smaller hole. Now, this fusing tape shrinks when you use it, so we don't absolutely have to cut a hole out every time, because I'll show you in a second what to make the excess fusing disappear. Just carefully cut a little hole in the middle of this square. Now, do the same thing, just work this into there. There's my screwdriver again, I think. Screwdriver, of course, very good tailor's tool. Right, so there's the hole in place. Now, if we're lucky, when we put the hot iron on here, let's make sure that's flat. I think we might have lost the pattern a little bit there. So now, one thing I was told when I was getting started in tailoring is, if it's not right, take it out. The ones that are good at this are the ones that will say, oh, that's not good enough, I'll do it again. So if you're ever sure that the thing is absolutely perfect, just go back, don't proceed. Now, I'll have another go at putting this in, getting it in the right position. Right, so you could, of course, just do this by opening up the lining and going inside. Right, now I'm going to have a go now and see what happens when we put some steam on that. Okay, let's see, let's take a chance. Just a regular domestic steam iron, build up a bit of steam with it, plunk it over there and get a lot of steam onto it. Now, let's see what we've got. Okay, the pattern's in the right place. Now, it's all in the pressing. I'm going to use my little sleeve press here, a little sleeve board, just so I've got it nice and flat and in one position, and press that down and see what we've got. Now, bear in mind, that was a very visible hole with the canvassing showing through. Let's just press it now and see. Now, if you look for this, you might be able to spot it. But there's not a hole there anymore. There's not a big lump. The pattern's lined up. There's a couple of odd little stitches there which I'm just going to clip off just to smart it up a little bit. Really carefully with these. That's it. There's little bits of fluff out of the way. Another one there. Okay. Now, the pattern's continuous that way and that way. I haven't darned it. Like I say, if you're looking for it, you'll probably find it. But now you can wear this jacket and there isn't a big gaping hole in it. And it's not an invisible repair, but it's an unnoticeable repair. So the jacket doesn't have to be thrown away.